kids? Welcome to Stylus Rumble Animation Type Thing. Today's an exciting day. Stylus Rumble just hit 5,000 subscribers. Look at that, 5,022 now. Super excited. So today what I'm going to do is a little hooray 5,000 animation thing. I'm just going to animate some little numbers around. I can show you some stuff that we do with the text editor and how to break things apart, things like that. It's going to be slightly useful. But in the meantime, to celebrate 5,000 views, I want you guys to send me your questions. So send me your questions about anything, how I got into effects, about special effects in general, about harmony, as long as it's not over 17. Thank you to everyone who understood that I was kidding about my pity party. I appreciate that. You get that I was kidding. I will be okay. So for any of you who are a little bit less harmony inclined, any of these tools that you're grabbing from over here, you've got your tool properties menu, you're going to be able to grab useful stuff out of here. So for the text tool, it's going to give you all your fonts. Highlight, boop, 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 boop. We just need a nice, I don't want to go too bananas with it. Then you've got your center, lefty, righty. You can bold and italicize certain ones. Your size, which is also adjustable by your peg. And then kerning and indenting, line spacing, stuff like that. So I used to work with this old guy named Bob. He was a graphic designer who studied in like the 60s or 70s. He was super old school. So I learned everything I know about kerning from that guy. For those of you who don't know what kerning is, the spacing between the numbers, if you ramp this up here, beep, 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 you have to highlight it, beep, 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 beep. So you're gonna get more space between your numbers. That's what kerning means. And I used to put numbers on jerseys. That was my job. I worked in a screen printing embroidery place, and he'd stand behind me and talk about my kerning, teach me all about it. So I'm going to select my text, right click, and down here I'm going to convert and then break apart your text layers. Can you see that on the screen? Break apart text layers, that one there. You can also do this, but this is the one we want right now. So this is going to give us independent text layers, so you can still highlight each one, but each one is a separate text itself. It's not separate down here. It's still separate in the group, but each one is now its own little text unit, so it can be moved independently. Whereas before, whenever you type in text, it comes in as one group. So if I wanted to move them, they would move together. So this is why we're going to break it apart, so that we can take the other ones and put them on the layers. Now from here, you can right click again, convert, and break apart the text layers again. And now it's going to break it. See, so this one I didn't break apart. This one is still text, so I cannot use my contour editor to edit it. Now that I've broken it apart 2 times, you can see now I can use my center line or my contour editor to edit these numbers. So if you wanted to further do things to the numbers, just, something like this, you'd need to break it apart 2 times. I do not need to do that. Or do I? See, I actually should have scaled them up before I did this. Actually, let's give them a master peg, and I'll scale them all up using the master peg. So you could put each one in separately, so you could type 5, type 0, and then type 0, but then your kerning is not going to be just the way you want it. And if you've been harassed by an older man, like I have, in having appropriate and aesthetic kerning, then that might be a problem for you. Right? So what I can do is down here, I've got this little field guide type thing that I can select the safe area, and that'll show me where the center of my screen is. To do this, get it right where I want it. Maybe I want it to be down, maybe I want it to be up. And actually, I want the scene to be a square because Instagram, so a 1080p square is plenty big for something like this. And this is going to be my final frame. Actually, let's see how much time I have, because my husband's outside with the kiddo playing, and I'm like, I gotta go run and make a video. So let's see how much we can get done in the time I have. But what we're gonna do is keyframe this, let's say here, and now we're gonna start to animate. So what I'm gonna do is animate backwards from the end position, because that way my numbers are exactly where I want them to be, and it's gonna be a little bit less fuddling around. So when I did my intro, the Stylus Rumble intro, all of that was animated backwards. I can actually pop that open. So here is the Stylus Rumble intro. And when we back out, you can see that I'm just sliding these things in around like that. All of these, whatever, this is the latest one, is the challenge one. So here, each of these letters is on its own thing. So sometimes we have two groups of letters and they're pre-animated into place. And what I do is I start on this frame, and as many as I need, let's say I only need this many, the challenge amount. I could change this. Let's say I need I'm going to put my 5,000 in here. What I'm going to do is just deactivate the ones that I don't need, because these guys are going to work out fine. And then I just change them. These ones are hand design text. Keep using textured brushes for my current work. There we go. So we do this, and then I'm just going to copy and paste because it's identical. So now by doing that, by just replacing the letters, whenever I have a new intro that I want to create, I can just put in the new letters and they're going to slide into place. Boom. Got a new intro. Yep. So here what I want to do, I want to have these roll in and this one jump in. Or maybe I'll have all of them do different things. Let's just see. Like I said, I don't know how much time we have before the park is not the funnest place to be. So this guy, I want him to jump in. That's his finished position. And I'm just going to do some really lowbrow cutout stuff here. So here's his landing position. And it really pays to just put your pivot point here at the bottom of your thing if you're having it roll along the ground like that. A little bit more of a float. And this is something that you just start to see a little bit better as you practice animating. You start, like, you can, even though your stuff is super smushed together like this, you start to be able to see the movement there, and you can imagine what it's going to look like once you space it out in your brain. So let's give that a little try. Bunk, bunk. It's pretty good. Bunk, bunk. I want him to have a little bit more air time. Here he goes up really, really fast, and then he doesn't. See how he just kind of hangs out there for several frames? So this one we're going to get up a little bit more, because there's no way he's going to stop dead, because he's got this huge jump and then he just slows right out. And of course you can always turn on your onion skin, which I keep down here. The onion skin view is like my favorite thing in life. So I can turn that on, and I can beep, 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 show all of those guys, as many as I need to see my movement. So this guy is still going to go up a little bit more. I'm not going to worry too much about realistic physics because it's a number 5. So I want it to be a little bit cartoony. And then I want to think about, because he's going snap. So the end here, I'm going to throw in a little overshoot. I definitely want it to settle there. So I'm going to just drag this keyframe over, hold Control, and then click and drag. It's going to save your keyframe. And then think about maybe he'll overshoot it a little bit. Maybe he'll overshoot it a lot. Let's just, we'll just even go back a little bit more. And then we can just slow it out to this one. Bunk, bunk. Bunk, bunk. Cool. Now that's fine. It's good enough for the 5. If I spend all day on this 5, then we're not going to get anything else done. So this one, let's see. This one, actually what I'm going to do, let's do some work here. So what I'm going to do is paste special and create this copy of this keyframe over here. And I'm going to replace this one. And I'm going to move my pivot point here. So now my O is also jumping in. So what I'm going to do is put a peg above this, because here, if I flip this peg, it's flipping at this point, like the point of connection to that pivot point. But what I can do with this one is I can flip the entire animation, because remember, all the information of your pegs flow down. So this one I'm going to flip, bloop, and now it's flipped the entire thing to go in the opposite direction. So that's an important thing when you're, make sure it's at the beginning. That's an important thing to remember when you're using harmony, is if I'd flipped it on this one, it would only have flipped the O. It would not have flipped the animation, just the O itself. So let me just show you that. Okay, so here I'm flipping the O, and the O is going the same way. It's just flipped. Now the O is flipped, but this flips the entire animation, so it's going to be the reverse. And just so it's not too samey, what I'll do is just have this come in a few frames later. And of course, we want it to end over here, right on that line. Okay, bunk, bunk. So that's a cheap and dirty way to do something that's a little bit different, and you could even make it a little bit more different by hitting your Shift F11, which is going to show you your spline. So this is showing you the actual arc that this thing is taking. Okay, so let's just throw in an extra little keyframe here. We want it to jump in a little bit differently, but now we're not starting from scratch, so we're just saving ourselves a little bit of energy so that things are similar, not exactly the same. Boonk, boonk. So now the O is a little bit slower because we've added in just a couple little keyframes, but it saved us a whole lot of time from doing that again. Next one, let's just have this roll in, because I think that would be fun. So of course, if we roll it from here, we're going to have issues. If we roll it from the center, it's going to do this. So let's just play around with our order of operations here. We'll turn off these distracting guys. So we'll just have this rotate 2 times. And then if we scroll it over here, you can see that it's rolling, but of course it doesn't make any sense because this is just flying through the air now. So instead we're going to put a peg on here above, and let's see what that does. I think this will do the same. If we put a peg above and do that, I think it will do the same thing. Boop, 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 boop. But if we put it below, then we're getting this. So do we want it to fly in like this? Maybe we do. That's a happy little accident. Whee! Boonk. But let's stop it here, because I like that much that it flies in from off screen. But now I want the trajectory to change a little bit. So I'm only going to use one of these pegs for that, and that'll be the top peg. The bottom peg is the translate that we're utilizing this crazy order of operations stuff. And this is one thing I see baby animators get in trouble with. I did a video called Making Your Wheels Go Round and Round, where I really break down how like the order of operations of your pegs is going to do this kind of stuff, and how you can take advantage of that at times, especially if you're doing wheels, something that's going to spin. But you could also use it here. Like, this is a bit of a happy accident, and we're just going to take advantage of this silliness for something that could have been a little bit more boring. Bink. So now I'm just going to select all of these guys and hit this little guy here, create keyframes on, and that's going to put all my stuff on 2s without me having to go through and put it all on 2s because I'm super lazy. Yeah, boonk. Oh, that's cute. A boonk. And then we'll turn these guys off. Boonk. Boonk. So there's lots of ways we could go about this guy. We could just have it like flip up. That'd be cool. If we keep our peg down here, make sure it's exactly on the line. And then we could play with 3D space. So we'll do this. We'll make our show our line doesn't exist. And then whoop, have it come up vertically. And what I'm going to do is actually put this one at the end. So save our end position. Go a little bit higher than that. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just make sure all these are odds, but just have a little bit more time happen between the later ones, so it looks like it's going a little bit slower as it gets towards the end here. But if you make sure your stuff's on odds, then when you set it on 2s, it's going to work. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. Well, one, it's kind of gone off kilter. Let's just spread this back a little bit. Because the numbers are flat, like super flat, it doesn't feel good. So I think I will go back to my rotate in. Let's bring this back, but I don't want it to come straight in. Maybe I'll have it curl around like this. So I'm just going to create a little track, and then I'm going to animate my guy backwards. Animate my little number backwards along the trail. So here's the not so glamorous side of animation. Then you meticulously roll this guy right off the screen. All right, so there's a few numbers, just different ways to get them into place. We want to double check that our spacing here is aesthetically pleasing. I was not super careful about saving that last keyframe. Well, let's be honest, folks. So let's jazz it up a little bit more. Actually, how should we get them out? I mean, I could do something cool like have them all burst into flames, but like I said, we're on a time budget. So let's just try reversing everything. Reversing everything, you say? Why, yes, there's a button for that. So I'm going to copy the frames on our very first 5 here, number 5. Copy them, and over here, let's say on frame 81, I'm going to paste special, and I'm going to add remove exposure. That's real important. Create drawing files when they do not exist, because we're going to use the same drawings. But down here, we have the option of cycle. So what we can do is paste a normal cycle as many times as we want. We can also paste a reverse cycle. So I'm just going to paste it reversed one time. I'm not going to create any new stuff because I'm going to just reuse the old stuff. And now he's going to bounce backwards, which doesn't quite work because it kind of wiggles and then goes. Actually, it works fine. He kind of thinks, oh, I'm going to leave, and then he leaves. Whoa, that's fine. So let's just do the next one. So this guy's the one flying and zooming in. He's got a whole bunch of extra keyframes down here. What I'm going to do is just fill in the gap down here, because while I enjoy reversing my keyframes, sometimes it doesn't know what to do. It gets a little bit confused. There we go. So because we just did that, the settings and paste special remember what you've just done. So if you do reverse stuff and then you decide to paste your keyframes, you got to remember you did that, or else you're going to reverse everything when you do the next time. So that's good. That's a good thing to keep in mind. A boop, reverse it. And I rather do smaller chunks like this because, like I said, sometimes it does kind of have a mess. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. So now it comes in, la la la, and it goes out again. Comes in. And it goes out again. I actually like that wiggle in the middle. So some things we can do that'll break this up a little bit is let's just take these 2 O's in the middle and we will reverse the direction that they are leaving. So again, I'm going to add a peg because remember, this will only flip the O. It won't actually flip the animation. So by flipping the O, first we're going to put a keyframe. We're going to want a little yellow man. We're going to keyframe the beginning. And then just at a good point, maybe that's when O really starts to wiggle, I'm going to put a keyframe there and flip it at that time. Might have to do it the keyframe before. Let's see. If we hit 4, you want to make sure this is in a nice spot so that it's not too jarring. There we go. That shouldn't be too jarring. Now it's going to roll out the other way. Whee! It doesn't get out fast enough because it leaves a little bit more space. But we can just add an extra. We can get that character out. Let's move down our guide so that we make sure that it stays in the layer, and then we'll just scoot out. Blip, 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 blip. Whoop. So now let's flip this one. Now it's already got a translate peg and it's got its general movement peg, but I'm going to add another flip peg on top of that because I want to flip everything that happened. I want to flip the translate, I want to flip the rotate, so I'm going to add another peg. Don't be afraid of pegs, especially if you're doing some motion graphic stuff like this. It's going to be fine. If you're doing a character, it really helps to practice working in the chain of the character, starting at the top of the hierarchy and working your way down, and not adding 1,000 pegs into your character rig, because then you can't use templates and then nobody comes into your scene, knows what's happening. But if you're doing like some independent motion graphic stuff like this, or you're doing some special effects that nobody else is going to have to try and interpret ever again, just a one-off, like that's never happening again, then add a peg. Pegs are really cheap. Some people are like, ooh, there's too many pegs, but pegs don't cost very much in the way of resources, so it's not going to lag down your computer, and maybe it makes your your timeline like the slightest bit less attractive, but I'm about getting things done. That's what I'm about. Yeah. And this one also needs a little bit of an adjustment over here. So let's have it fly, continue flying off screen this way, because then it's different again from before. So even though we're just stealing all the animation, it's not going to look so perfectly synchronized that it looks like that it was as cheap as it is. Whee! Alright, so I'm satisfied with this. One more thing I want to do that I think will add a lot of bang for a little bit of buck is add shadows. So the only one that's going to be a nuisance with shadows is our flying friend. So let's isolate our flying friend over here like this. And the other three, I believe we might not be able to composite them together because this one rolls on another plane. These two, 5 and jumping O, I believe they can be comped together. So let's give it a shot. Worst case scenario, they cannot. And that's not going to be too much of a problem. Doesn't really matter who's first, so I'm going to rearrange them here. The apply peg transformation, could use that. This one's a little bit more convenient than the image transformation. It cuts things off sometimes. So let's do this. And I'm going to add a peg to the leftmost port, which is the transformation port. I believe I have an episode all about this. I don't remember what that one's called. I've got one all about shadows and lights and stuff, so you can go take a peek at that. So this is just a peg below what you're animating, really is the simplest way to put it. I'm going to do that and then shrink it down like this. Make sure our peg is on. First one, there we go. You know what? Let's put a little quad map. I think that worked out. Dunk. Yeah, that lines up. I'm going to copy and paste special. Make sure this is normal. So now it's telling me that it's not going to reverse it. That's really nice. Not that this has anything to reverse, but I mean, stranger things have happened. And let's just see if it works. Now, see, the rolling one is not having a good time. So what we're going to do is give it an independent peg. So what we're going to do, animate it into place where it should be. And let's turn off our other distractions here. Remember, if you're using a whole pile of characters and stuff, it's going to be better for you to use displays rather than deactivating stuff. It's an unreasonable amount of times we see stuff that gets deactivated and then it's never reactivated. Now, physics-wise, this probably is wrong. When the thing started turning, it might have given me some more interesting, some different shadows than what I'm giving. But this is low budget, so we're just going to go with this. I think it's going to look right enough. Which is really, that's the level of quality I'm going for today. Animating under a quad map is not a fun thing to do. But if we want it to match our final scene, we're going to have to do that. And I often get questions from people like that where they're like, oh, I put a deformer or a quad map on something and now everything's exploded. I'm like, yep. That sure did, I betcha. That's something that's going to happen. Like, because this is distorting something, so why should it work the way you think it would? If the quad map was above, if the quad map was on this side of the equation, it would work the way it would hope it would, where it just like works out fine, because things happen top to bottom, with the strange exception of this apply peg transformation, which is like putting a top peg at the bottom of your hierarchy. And this guy last. So now we need a new apply peg transformation. And let's turn off all of these guys. Beep. Cool. So let's turn our guide back on, even though it's kind of been thrown about. We'll get it back to where it makes sense, and then we'll be able to make our shadow placement a little bit more sensibly. Alright, so that's it. I'm gonna switch up the colors and pretty it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna export it and put it on the internet to celebrate. So message me with your questions for my AMA, which I will do next week. So any questions you have on animation or anything like that, you just drop them either in the comments here or on Twitter or anywhere. I probably won't find it on Instagram because I don't know how that works. And I never add anybody on Facebook except family, so don't bother. But here is good. And that is all. So like, share, subscribe, all those things internet people ask you to do. And I will see you in the next video.